it's Jenny from Homestead Corner. Today I thought we'd talk a little bit about different types of containers for dry food storage. You start thinking about long-term dried food storage. A lot of people are going to go rice and beans, and there are lots of other things also, like flours and sugars, and there are tons of things that you can put up. And there are a barrage of different ways to do it. And I have to be honest with you, I have tried tons of different ways. And is one way the best way? I don't see it. I see that whatever works for you should be the way that you do it. I think what you have access to makes a big difference. If you have got loads and loads of mason jars, then I would definitely get a vacuum sealer, because you can store all of your dried stuff in glass. I love glass. I'm limited on to how many jars I have though, because during this pandemic you can't get jars. They're starting to come back in stock. I'm lucky that I was gifted hundreds of jars, and I have quite a big collection. But I do a lot of canning, so I have my dried food storage that some I use for glass for, and I have so many that are set aside just for canning. And I'll take the dried ones as they empty and I'll can in them, but I have to have a certain amount for canning because we put up hundreds of jars of food every single year. That's what we do. So canning is definitely a total different topic. This is just about dried foods. You cannot put cooked steak in here and vacuum seal this. It is not going to last. It has to be canned. Any cooked foods has to be canned. It can't go into you can't just vacuum seal it. It will go bad. But your dried goods, these glass jars, this is just an old mason jar. I think it's a Canadian mason. Yeah, these work great. Also, the spaghetti sauce jars, Classico makes this one, and it says Atlas on it. I'm not sure if you can see that in the light, but these are wonderful. I use them for canning, and they're also great for vacuum sealing dried goods. So in the jars, I put a barrage of different things. Pretty much anything can go in here. If it fits and it's dry, you can seal it up in here. Airtight is what you're looking for. You want to keep any dried food storage, you want it in an airtight container is what your goal is. So whether it's one of these soda bottles, this is just some pinto beans from 2019. These are wonderful. They're free. You drank the soda, and if you put a little brush in there and clean it out, you want to clean these really well. But this works great for dried beans or rice or something like that. These work great, and they don't cost anything, and you can lay them down and stack them, so you can get quite a lot. This holds like 3-4 pounds of beans in here, just a 2-liter. And I've also found all the food grade containers. I don't use any milk containers because you can't get in that handle and get it clean, and it's so hard to see if there's any residue in there. It's not safe. I would not use a milk container. Any other kind of container, food grade, is great for your dried goods. This is just a non-dairy creamer bottle that I had, and this is rice from 2018. And what I do with these, because they're not airtight, if you squeeze them, a little bit of air is going to come out here. So I don't know if you can see that, but I put saran wrap in there under the cover. I just double layer. I've got saran wrap on here, and I just take it and I fold it in half so there's 2 layers, and just put it right on top of the jar and pull it down nice and tight. And then with the threads, it's going to seal that right up, and I get it nice and tight. So even if it comes open, it's not going to come out this saran wrap holding it. But this works great for rice and beans as well. And again, you can store them upright, you can lay them down, you can slide them underneath furniture. Most of these will fit under a couch. No one would ever see them under there. Great place to store this kind of stuff. But they're going to stay nice and dry in here. So airtight and dry is how you want to keep them, and you want to keep them in the dark. You don't want anything sitting near a window with any sunlight coming in. It's going to damage your foods, and it takes away nutrients, it discolors them. It could change their flavors a little bit. I know, like dried beans, when they get older, they are harder to cook. The older they are, the harder they are to cook. So that's why I always rotate my food. I want to keep that food moving, because those old beans take longer to cook, which causes you more fuel, more time, and beans take enough time already. So, and another option, a lot of people use Mylar bags. I don't love Mylar bags. I have used them. This is rice from 2015. I tried a whole bunch of different options back then. I was trying out all kinds of things. I don't love the Mylar bags because they poke holes in them. This one was tighter. It's got some kind of leak somewhere, but it's just rice in there. So I've got to use this up. And it's been sitting around for about 5 years, but I noticed that it's not tight anymore like it was. So there's some kind of hole somewhere. So, ooh, wow. And what we do for, what I personally like for dried powdered items, I either use a jar with a cupcake liner in the top to kind of hold it down, because when you vacuum seal these, it's going to suck the powder comes up, and it can get in your tube and clog up your vacuum sealer. So I'll put a little liner or something, paper on top, just to hold that powder down. This one is cheese, and it just kind of, I have an oxygen absorber in there, and but I don't like oxygen absorbers in all my food, because I don't know if you've noticed, when you open some things, they've got a different kind of flavor. It kind of takes on the flavor of that oxygen absorber. So that's why I don't use much Mylar bags anymore. And this one has sprung a leak. Not good. So, and for my other powdered items, if I don't have enough jars, my next option is to vacuum seal them. And either I put them, like these are potatoes, they are little potato flakes in there, and I put a little label and put on there what you need to make this. Because if I'm not home, or if something happens to me, my family needs to know how to cook. So I write on the labels, this needs 2 3/4 cups of water, a teaspoon of salt, 4 tablespoons of butter, and a cup of milk. So, and this will serve 8 people. And so they know when they pick this up how to make it. I think that's important, especially if you're not around and you're the one that cooks all the time. And like, I have to say, my kids have never made instant potatoes or anything like that. I mean, I teach them to cook regular food, but if they got a hold of this, they'd be like, what do I do with it? So so I do that with my stuff, and these are in a paper bag, and I just wrap the paper bag. I don't fold it or crunch it. I just wrap it around and then put it in the vacuum seal bag and suck it in there. And this works really, really well. Or flour, I normally do the same way with paper bags. You could do sugar this way, but when you put sugar in a bag, it compacts it like a rock. This is flour, but you can see this is rock hard once it's compacted. These were small enough bags. I just put a little tear in there, so when the vacuum sucked the air out, it would suck it out of there too. So it is completely airtight in there. So these are great also. And when you're using buckets, I store quite a bit of food in buckets as well. I think buckets are great. They're a great space saver. You can stack them up ceiling high, which is awesome. In this bucket right here, this is beans, and this is an airtight. I've already opened it because these are a pain in the butt to open. But this is an airtight lid, and you can see it's got a rubber seal in here. And that rubber seal, when this is closed, it makes this bucket airtight. It's a food grade from, you know, the local Chinese shop. You can get them cheap from Chinese food stores. Sometimes your bakeries, stuff like that, will have frosting buckets, and they will give them away. Check with your local stores, bakeries, restaurants, stuff like that. If you can't get them free, you might be able to get them really cheap. These are just a couple dollars. And when I have an airtight container like this, you don't have to do anything to the stuff inside. This is just beans. I just chuck them in there, in the bag, because the container is airtight. This doesn't need to be. So if I am using like a Walmart bucket and one of their lids, I got one of them over here. And these lids, these just like peel off the top. They're really easy to get off. They are not airtight. These are food grade buckets you can get at Walmart. They're just a couple dollars, but the covers are not airtight. So when you put food in it, you've got to make sure the food inside is airtight. Either Mylar bags, vacuum sealed, something like that. You don't want to put stuff in that's not airtight, because it's gonna get destroyed in there. So, so like the airtight buckets, just chuck it in there. I have buckets that are the whole bag of flour in the bag, you know, stick it in there, or sugar, stick it right in there. If it's airtight, then you don't have to worry about it and repackage it and all that stuff. Just flour, rice, things like that, oatmeal. I throw everything in the freezer for a couple days, and I freeze it to make sure there are no larvae or anything like that that can hatch in there. You want to make sure if there's any eggs or anything, it will die. So if it hatches, it'll eat your food, it'll ruin your food, you won't be able to use it. So I freeze everything for 3-4 days, and then take it out and leave it on the counter for 3 or 4 days. Make sure it comes completely down to room temperature all the way through, and then you package it for however you're going to. That works the easiest for me. Take it out, throw it on top of the freezer, whatever, however it works. Whatever you have, an old chair, something. And let's see, those work great also. And the other buckets that I use are, I like these Gamma Seals. These are nice. They're a little bit more pricey. I was told by a lot of the subscribers you can get them at Lowe's and Home Depot. I haven't seen them here at our local Lowe's or Home Depot, but I get them online usually. That's where I can find them. We don't have much for stores up here, and it takes me over an hour to get down to the city to see what they have, so I don't make many trips there. But the Gamma Seals screw on. They're airtight, and they have got a rubber gasket up here. So, and like in this bucket, I keep spices. And yes, this is how I store my spices. It works for me. I've had spices in these kind of buckets for a very, very long time. Spices are not something that's gonna go bad as long as they're sealed up. I put only brand new sealed up containers in here, and then they're in an airtight bucket, so I don't have to worry about it. You can repackage your spices, but I don't see that it's necessary. As long as they're in an airtight container, they're in these sealed. There's no air coming in and out of these. So it's food storage isn't as hard as you think it is. using what you have or what's available to you and finding the way that's going to work. So if you don't have a vacuum sealer, that's okay. You can use Mylar bags, or if you don't have Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers, you could use a vacuum sealer. You could use these airtight buckets. You can even go with a soda bottle. I mean, there are tons of different options. And my grandma always said there's more than one way to skin a cat. And she was right. There is. There's so many ways to do it. And just because one person says this is the only way, it doesn't mean that's what it is. Do what works for you. Find a way that works. You know it's airtight. You know it's safe. And then that is the key to dry goods, is in a dry area, airtight, and I like to have it dark, no sunlight. If you have them in a room like this, I would block off all the windows and with dark curtains so there's no sunlight coming in at all. It's going to prolong the life of your food. That sunlight is just not good. Air and sun, we need it, but our food doesn't. And that is it for today. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.